Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 273. And yeah, I checked up on all my people, all my friends on island, and majority of us have power. Majority of us, have gone back to everyday type of activities, right? Some people not so much. Some people are still without power 30 plus hours later. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, the grand thing about it, like, yeah, all that food you got in your fridge, throw that shit out and buy new groceries. But what I want to talk about today, man, is I had a couple of my boys leave relationships, right? And it's like, and one of them I kept telling him because he was in a relationship the same time I was. Actually, all of them were. You know, at one point in time, we was all booed up. You know, and it's like, how many times can you have the same conversation with somebody before you get tired of having the same conversation? Um, and it's true, man. It's like as much as you love this person, as much as you want to stay connected to him, it's like you got to realize that, like, yo, it's not meant to be what you want it to be, and be thankful it's not. Because I hate to say this and I hate to sound sexist, but believe it or not, a lot of women are liabilities, bro. You know, they're not assets. They don't provide anything. They don't bring anything to the table. You know, they don't want to be held accountable, and they don't want to. A lot of women nowadays, and this has probably happened in the last 20 years or so. They have this delusional thing with dating, and they think that the man should pay for everything. They, that they don't have to pay for nothing. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. You know, that's wild that you think that. You know, and when I say that, what I mean is that I'm not talking about, hey, you know what, it's your anniversary, so you pay for your girl's nails, or what, it's her birthday, so you pay for your girl's nails. It's like, I'm talking like they want them shits done weekly. It's like, and they expect you to pay for it. No, absolutely not. I was talking to one of my brother's friends, one of his good friends, and he's going through something similar. And he told me, man, point blank, he's like, the delusion that some of these women have, bro, like, dating nowadays is trash, right? And it really is, bro. It's like, you know, it's like if you didn't find your girl in high school or college, the chances of you getting booed up, with somebody who actually wants to bring something of value into your life is, you know, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but it's highly unlikely, right? And the women that you do meet, they got a gang of kids. You know, they've been through three, four serious relationships, maybe a marriage or two. Stay away from the women who've been divorced more than twice. One divorce, yeah, that's, you know, like that you can kind of let it slide. But after two or three, I'm like, no, it's like there's something going on in that situation that you ain't telling the nigga, and it's like, for whatever reason, you're not going to tell us, and I get it, whatever it is, right? Hell, I've known people, believe it or not, they'll get married, get divorced because the husband is cheating on them, and they'll turn around and get remarried again, and they'll fuck around on the new spouse. I'm like, you ain't shit. I don't care what you try to say. I don't care how you try to, like, justify your actions. It's like, just because you're hurt doesn't mean that you have the right to hurt somebody else. It's like Trip Fontaine family said when he was with tonight's conversation. He would always say, like, yo, if you bitter, if you this, you that, stay your ass in the house. And it's true. It's like, what good is that, to sit there and, like, and create this bullshit scenario in your head, that you didn't do nothing wrong or you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And I can't remember this one girl's IG, but she said, let's normalize, us cutting off women who cheat on their men. let's normalize us not with you backing a woman up when she cheats. She's like, I don't care how good of a guy he is, I don't care how bad of a guy he is. It's like cheating is a choice, And she was right, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like that is a choice, And I'm a big believer in it's like I'm a big believer in it. It's like how you get them is how you lose them, So if you knew somebody was in a relationship with somebody else, and I'm not discounting the fact, that people who go through divorces or whatnot, because hell, I've hooked up with women who are going through a divorce. You know what I mean? I've done that. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's like at the end of the day, I'm not talking about a woman who or a woman that's going through a divorce. I'm talking about a woman who's, claims she's happily married, but yet she's out there being hunched over. You know? And so what I mean by that is like, bro, it's like just ask questions, understand the situation that you're getting into, because a lot of the times people will get into situations and like they be like, what you mean? I told you I didn't want X, Y, and Z. Like, yeah, you told me that, but look at your actions. And I remember once a former friend of mine, she wanted me to meet her boyfriend or whatnot too. And I'm like, no, I've already met the guy, And I've talked about this situation in other episodes too. And I said, like, I already have a first impression of him, and my first impression of him is trash. And she's like, what you mean? I was like, the night we all went out to that party, and he was literally told to leave because he made folks uncomfortable. And then you were telling me all the shit he was doing after a bunch of people left. I'm like, why would you want to date somebody like that? Where's the discernment on your part? Like where's the judgment? You know what I mean? Like, where's the critical thinking? There is none. And so with that being said, it's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand it. But at the same time, it's like you don't get a free pass just because, I'm a girl, yeah, X, Y, and Z is like, it's like I was on Threads the other night, and this girl was saying, she was talking about how to maintain your car and everything too. And she's like, hey, you know what? I don't care what people say, man. It's like at the end of the day, it's like if everybody should know the basic ins and outs of their car. Tire rotation, oil change, excuse me, regular maintenance, etc., etc., etc. Because it's like that excuse saying, "Oh, I'm just a girl," which you go, it's bullshit and it's tired. You know, you know. And she was talking about the girlinization of womanhood, and I'm like, it's true. You know, I've had plenty of females say, "Well, I'm just a girl." Like, shut the fuck up, bro. It's like you out here driving a. I don't care if you're driving a $2,000 car or an $85,000 car, or $100,000 car. It's like, know what the fuck you driving, you know? And it's like, it's amazing to me how women won't realize that, how they won't see see the issues in that, And another thing too is like, please stop buying shit you can't afford, Stop buying cars, stop buying sneakers, stop doing your nails, stop doing X, Y, Z. I'm not saying don't do your nails for a special occasion, but doing them shit's got to be done every week if you can't afford it. And if you can't afford it, stop getting this current shit that you got, that you keep getting, Just go for like a regular mani and pedi. People are like, what? I was like, yeah. It's like, go for a regular mani and pedi, I'm not saying that shit got to be stupid expensive, but at the same time, it's like it should be done in a way that budget friendly. You don't need $300 set of nails. You don't need X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? It's like a regular mani and pedi, you'll be fine, bro. And it's like, the last time I checked, they sell fucking what do you call that? Fingernail painting, colors and shit. Go off and do your own nails, bro. You don't have to pay somebody to get that shit done. Anyway, getting back to my original point in this episode, man. I had a couple friends of mine just leave their relationships, and it's like, you know, one of them was 50-50. The other one was like straight up like, no, like we're done. Um, and I get it because I've been left. I've done the leaving. I've had people who left me come back, and I'm like, no, I'm good. And the difference with me is like, even if we end on weird terms or even on bad terms, you know what I mean? It's like if we end on bad terms, I'm blocking you. I'm not communicating with you. Or like I've only done that maybe once or twice, you know, because I was dealing with somebody who just didn't want to take accountability for their actions. I'm like, you know what? And it was based off a simple conversation. I had asked this individual that I was talking to, and she was a friend of mine, and we had developed feelings for each other, right? But nothing happened. And so I had asked her point blank, and this is years ago, and I'd asked her like, "Oh, like, were you trying to gaslight me the other day?" And she laughed at the message. So that right there told me that, yo, that's all you need to know. The fact that she's ducking that means yes, she was trying to gaslight you. And then her response was saying, "Well, I don't have time for this today." Yada yada yada. Whoop de whoop. Like yo, it's unfortunate that we were once best friends. That you can't sit there and and answer a simple question. You can't sit there and take accountability for your shit. You know, you can't sit there and do X, Y, and Z. And then she brought up the boyfriend, and she's like, "Well, like well, if I showed my boyfriend a text message that the text messages, the shit that you're sending me, or the shit that I'm sending back," I was like, "Go ahead." I was like, "I don't care if you show him or not. I don't care about him. You know, he's not gonna do anything. He's a weirdo. You know, dude's a chump, because he is." And I told him one simple sentence, and I tell people all this in the beginning, like, yo, if I ever tell you to take care, that means get the fuck out of my face and stay away. And once I tell people that, it's a wrap, bro. It's like, no, there's no coming back. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, well, before she became my girlfriend, and then when my brother died, and she had asked me like, "Oh, so," and she knew about about the girls I dated before and everything too, and yada yada yada. and then she asked me something like, "Oh, well, did so and so reach out?" She's talking about the girl, and I was like, "I don't care if she did." She's like, "What?" She's like, "How can she reach out? She's blocked and everything. Like, I no longer have her number. I no longer have I don't have any ways of getting in contact with it, but I wouldn't get in contact with it because why? What for?" Um, like I told her she's blocked on social media. I was like, yo, when I told my girlfriend at the time, it's like, I don't play games when it comes to this shit. It's like, if I tell you take care, the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna block you. I'm not gonna sit here and play these bullshit mind games with you. It's like, no, we too fucking old for that, bro. It's like most if not all my friends, we're in our late 30s to our early 40s, bro. Like, we don't have time for this shit. We don't have time to be fucking around with X, Y, and Z, because we don't. And and when I told this girl, hey, it's a shame that that we can't sit here and have a conversation, and try to figure things out. But it's clear to me that that we're not gonna figure anything out. So take care of yourself. And right after that, I had I think she hit me back, and she asked me something. She's oh, like what does that mean? This and this and that. And I didn't even respond. It's like I just simply deleted the text thread, went to the contacts, deleted the number, you know, deleted the pictures and everything. So it's like, and it's like, Because after a while, people get tired of this shit, bro. It was like relationships or friendships, whatever this is, bro. It's like men get tired. People get tired. They get tired of just being too much for the wrong person. You know, excuse me. And like that's the most frustrating part. It's like if you want, and this person would always say like, oh well, if you want the message to be received, sometimes well you gotta tailor it to the individual. Like no, not after a while. No, you don't, because it's like if you're talking to somebody about the same issue over and over and over again, it's like at some point in time you'll get tired of talking to them, in that particular way. It's like, it's like, what part of don't you understand that you're a part of the issue too? What part of don't you understand that it's like everything that's happening in this situation is because of you too? It's like, stop blaming the other person. Stop thinking that the other person is gonna be, understanding, because most of these women, and again, I don't mean to sound sexist, but a lot of these women don't have the ability to take accountability in the moment. A lot of women will take accountability at the very end after all this shit's been fucking drawn out. And I'm looking at it like, it's like, you don't have to do all that. It's like, if you would have just sat down and fucking had that conversation, and everything would have been perfect. And it's like my ex, like the last conversation we had with you, she said, what did she say? I had asked her, like, because she was a teacher, I asked her, like, and this was months ago, and I asked her, like, because she was texting me throughout, and like, my birthday, November, December, whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'm thinking we, like we working back to something, right? And so I sent her a text, and I go, hey, like, can I see you during your Christmas break? But she had like 2 3 weeks off of work. And then she texts back hours later, like, I don't know, and I'm thinking, okay, cool, whatever. The part that sent me, and the part that didn't sit well with me was then she goes, well, like, she said, what did she say? She said that if you can't agree that we're operating as friends, then maybe meaning maybe I'll come see you during Christmas break. I'm nobody's fucking option. It's either a yes or a no. That I don't know shit is basically, it registers in my brain as a no. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, and mind you, I'm getting all these text messages in 15-minute increments, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. And then like I'll get another text message about 10 minutes later. And then she goes, after those first 2 messages. And the third message says, the no response speaks volumes. And mind you, like, I'm at a family reunion, like, I'm chilling, I just got back to my house, or the place I was staying at. And, like, I'm just vibing out, right? I'm chilling. And, I'm a little bit inebriated, so there's that. And, so I text back and I say, like, hey, like, I'm gonna call you. I ended up not calling her because one of my homegirls called me. And so I'm telling her about the situation, and she was like, yo, I don't understand that. I was like, what doesn't she get? Like she's asking her ex-boyfriend if they can be friends, and it's like, what part of, how many times can you tell somebody that I can't be just your friend? I don't want to be just your friend, right? And at that point, I don't want to use the word toxic, because I don't think we were toxic. I think one of us was fucking confused. And I think when people say toxic, that's just a bullshit excuse to get out, to duck accountability. And so I ended up, and so that was like a Friday. No, my bad. It was a Saturday. It was a Saturday all that shit happened. I ain't speak to her all day Sunday. I didn't speak, you know, and like she hit me up Monday, and then she's trying to get me to talk to her, but like that was one of her tactics too. Like whenever she was spiraling out of her mind, she would try to force a conversation. And the one thing about me is like you're not gonna force me to come talk to you. You know, I've been this way since I was a kid. You're not gonna no, you're not gonna talk to me. You know, I've been that way. You know, like yeah, we can have the conversation, but we're not gonna have it on your time. It's like yo, it's like we can actually take some time and chill and collect ourselves because it's like the last thing I'm ever gonna do is I'm not gonna sit here and have a conversation with somebody when either one of our emotions are running high. And after that, like she never hit me back up. And I think about that from time to time. It's like, damn, like, like, yo, it's like if I would have just, picked up the phone, you know, text back, whatever it is, maybe the conversation would have been different. But I told myself, like, yo, it's like the situation would have been the same, bro. Because you were dealing with somebody who didn't know what they wanted. All they knew what they wanted was that they didn't want to lose you. And months later, I hit her back, and I hit her up, and I said like, yo, and I explained, and I was like, yo, it was like I wasn't ready to lose you yet. Key word, I wasn't ready to key sentence, I wasn't ready to lose you yet. And that's the part that always stuck with me. It's like yo, it's like I'm okay with losing people, because before I would sit there and ask questions and like try to figure out where this shit went wrong, and I'm like, bro, I'm cool. I don't need to have people in my life that don't know what they want. You know, from a career standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from a friendship standpoint, it's like I'm cool with all that. I don't need to sit there and like and be caught up in a situation with somebody where I'm crystal clear in what I want, you know? And yeah, I might be a little bit much at times. Yeah, I might be X, Y, and Z, but at the same time, bro, it's like you can never sit there and tell me a nigga's not loyal. You know? You can never not sit there and tell me a nigga's not gonna go to bat for you. And it's like when people lose that dog, it's like when they lose that access to me, you know, whether by their own doing, because I'm not gonna sit there and consistently text somebody, Periodically, I may check up on people from time to time. Like I checked up on my ex, when we had that storm come through, the last few days. I just texted like, hey, you and the kids cool, you know. Mind you, those ain't my kids, but it's like I'ma always care about them kids like they're my own, you know, because that's what a mature adult does, like they put aside their emotions, their feelings for in a situation, and they see the bigger picture, you know. And I'm not expecting a text back or anything like that, but it's like, yo, it's like I know you seeing my shit because my shit is undelivered, you know. I know you seen them text messages, you know. I'm not gonna call you or blow you up, whatever it is, because I'm not. But at the same time, I'm gonna sit there and be like, yo, like let me go ahead and check on so and so. Okay, boom, because we didn't end on an awkward terms. We didn't end on bad terms. We didn't end on her ducking accountability. We ended on her trying to keep me in her life in a friendship capacity where friendship was impossible. Because like I've told you guys in multiple other episodes too, once you involve sex in the situation, it is extremely difficult to go back to being friends right after that. And I remember telling my partner this one time. I was like, yo, it was like a lot of the times, girl, we overstay our welcome in a situation, or a lot of the times we 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 end up disregarding what the red flags are because we want to make this shit work, and because we want to have somebody so bad that we just ignore what's really going on. And there's one cat that I follow. This smart brother that I follow on Instagram. Guy's Instagram handle is Cipher, and he was talking about like a lot of women will, and he's like, well, not just women but men too, but majority of it is women. They'll say like, "Oh, I have options," and then he's like, "No, you don't have options. You're just confusing visibility with compatibility." Hmm? And it's true. A lot of the times, women will sit there and be like, "Oh, I have options." Like, no, 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 not really, ma. No. Um, I don't know who told you that, but that's a lie. You know. And they don't want to sit there and like come to terms with that. I'm like, but you have to. You know, like you have to sit there and like be honest with yourself, and you have to sit there and be like, okay, yeah, it's like, you know, because in reality, it's like I remember once Kitty on tonight's conversation was talking to this one lady, and she had like 7 kids, right? and and um the wife had got divorced from the husband because the husband was cheating and the whole nine and everything. And then she mentioned the kids, and they asked like, "Oh well, are all the kids from the same guy?" And she's like, "Yes." And they asked her, "How many kids do you have?" And she said 7. And I said, and they said like, "Oh, okay. To be honest with you, that's a lot for another person to come into and take on. You know, that's not something that somebody should take lightly because it's not. And that was also interesting too because at the end of the day, it's true. I literally know some guys and girls who have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 kids. And I'm like, I wish you would have stopped at baby number 1 or baby number 2. You know, because you're expecting somebody else to come into the situation, and that's a lot to take on. You know, that situation itself is toxic. You know, because you're sitting there trying to justify your feelings, your actions, and it's like I've literally had women tell me like, "I don't trust men, this and this," and I'm like, then keep your ass in the house. And he's like, go to therapy, do X, Y, and Z, but please don't come out here and thinking that somebody else gotta pay for the bullshit that you endured because it's also your fault. You know, it's also your fault for not being held accountable to yourself when you know the other person that you was with was doing X, Y, and Z. When you know the other person was cheating on you with X, Y, and Z. When you know the other person was doing all this shit. It's nobody else's responsibility to check yourself and keep your emotions in check except you. So if you think everybody out there is your ex, stay the fuck in the house, man. Um, please don't make somebody else the victim to your situation when they had nothing to do with that. And I hate to say this too. A lot of these women don't understand how difficult it really is for somebody else to come into the situation and take on a role that nobody really wants to take on. You know, because that Reddit sentence is like, you know, when the kids yell, "Well, you ain't my dad." Yeah, you're right. But where that motherfucker at? He ain't here. He's not helping you do X, Y, and Z. He's not helping you do all this other shit, right? You want to sit here and say that so-and-so ain't your dad. Yeah, yeah, you're right. But you know what? It takes a man to come up in this situation and try to steward a situation, steward a ship that's not his responsibility. You know? And I'm not saying all dads out there are bad. I'm not saying that, you know, because I know some guys who are great fucking dads, but they just hooked up with the wrong girl, you know. They hooked up with their high school sweetheart or girl they went to high school with, or whatever it is, or girl they went to college with, and it's like, they had, like they had their issues, and at the end of the day, yeah, like, does it suck? Yes, it sucks when something ends, but at the same time, it's like, hold yourself accountable, and be real with yourself too, because not only is it your responsibility to steward another human being that you helped create, but it's also your responsibility to realize when sometimes you got to be thankful that you leave a situation and there's no attachments to that situation, and I believe that God works in mysterious ways, because there's no way that you can be in certain situations and not learn, because the older I get, you know I'm at a point in the time where I've been what they call at a learning stage. You know, first is the blamer, the avoider, and X, Y, and Z. The last stage is learning. And it took me a long time to figure this out. It took me a long time to be like, yo, okay, like, yeah, because in my 20s, in my teens and my 20s, I would sit there and blame other people. I would sit there and blame it on, my physical disability, me being out of shape, and all this other shit. I can't control the physical disability, but what I can control is how I look, how I feel. I can't control how I take accountability for my actions in the situation. I can control X, Y, and Z, and it's like, it's really not the other person's responsibility to sit there and deal with your insecurities. But what you can do is understand that it's your responsibility, to get better. It's your responsibility to grow and learn, because I have this quote that I tell people all the time. It's like, I said, I'm not religious, but in the book, in the good book, it says God takes care of the fools and babies, babies and fools. We all know how old a baby is, but you realize that there is no age limit on a fool, right? So do that what you will, and understand that every situation, it doesn't require your attention. It doesn't, and the faster you learn that, the better off you'll be, because you don't need to sit there and be stuck in a situation, where you're over benefiting somebody else and under benefiting yourself. Long story short, bro, if you think your relationships that you in, whether friendships, whatever it is, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever the situation is toxic, get the fuck out. If you have people making excuses, and not taking accountability, get the fuck out. Hold yourself accountable and look at the situation for what it is. I'm not saying stop being a nice person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying have the limits and have the boundaries set so you can become a better individual. Because boundaries isn't for the other person. Boundaries is for you. And if you have a hard time accepting responsibility and accountability, whatever relationship you're in, whether a friendship, whatever it is, it's never going to work, because you can't be the victim in every situation. It's not going to happen. It's physically impossible for you to be in every situation and be the fucking victim. All right, y'all, this is 34 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. I will see y'all next week. Hope y'all keeping it in full peace. Private player, positive pushing. I'll see y'all next week. I love y'all. And like I always say, know your work because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Peace. Happy Sunday.